Hey everyone, we are working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
You want to tell me this is Shedeur's team? You want to look me dead in the eyes and say the Cleveland Browns are going to hand that rookie the keys? Well, somebody better go tell Todd Monken, because according to everything coming out of Berea right now, the quarterback who is running first-team reps, the quarterback who the new head coach is gushing over, the quarterback who a source close to his own camp says is the most excited he has been in years, is Deshaun Watson. Yeah, that Deshaun Watson, the man whose Achilles has been torn not once but twice. The man who has cost the Cleveland Browns roughly $10 million per start. The man whose trade sent 6 draft picks to Houston and has been called by Browns co-owner Jimmy Haslam himself a big swing and miss. That guy is leading the quarterback competition right now. And I'm Dre Fiver. This is Dre Reports. And if you think I'm going to just sit here and pretend like everything about this situation isn't absolutely unhinged, you clearly have not been watching this channel. Strap in, because we are going full deep dive on what is happening in Cleveland, why it's happening, who's winning, and most importantly, what it means for Shedeur Sanders and his future as the supposed franchise quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. Let me lay the foundation first, because if you're new to this story, you need to understand just how broken this franchise has been at the position. The Browns drafted Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round of last year's draft, a 5th-round pick, a quarterback who by most pre-draft assessments was considered a 1st or 2nd-round talent, slid all the way to pick number 144 due to a combination of off-field noise, media narratives surrounding his father Deshaun Sanders, and general front office skittishness around the family brand. Cleveland took the value. Andrew Berry made the call. And to Sanders' credit, the kid came in, earned his starts, and finished his rookie season as the team's primary starter, going 3-4 in 7 games. That is not a bad outcome for a 5th-round rookie quarterback in a broken system with a bad offensive line and no weapons. The man showed he could compete. He showed flashes. And the reasonable expectation coming into this offseason was that Cleveland would build around him, give him a real offensive coach, a real offensive line, and let the young man develop into the franchise signal caller they have been desperately searching for since Baker Mayfield walked out that door. Then the Browns hired Todd Monken, and everything got complicated. Here is what you need to understand about Todd Monken. This is not just another NFL recycled offensive coordinator who got a head coaching gig because someone needed a warm body. This man spent the last 3 seasons as the offensive coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens, and in that role, he turned Lamar Jackson into arguably the most efficient quarterback in NFL history. The Ravens under Monken's coordination ranked number 1 in scoring offense, number 1 in total yardage, and produced the first team in NFL history to compile over 4,000 passing yards and 3,000 rushing yards in the same season. Those are not numbers you manufacture by accident. Todd Monken is a legitimate offensive mind, and when Cleveland brought him aboard, Browns fans were right to get excited. The system was going to change. The quarterback was going to be asked to do different things. And that is where the Watson narrative starts to get very real, very fast. According to ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, people around the league who have spoken to those connected to the Browns believe that Monken's offensive concepts include elements that Watson has run before and has historically been best at, a departure from what Kevin Stefanski had been running in Cleveland. Fowler reported specifically that a source close to Watson described Monken's scheme, rooted in air raid concepts with heavy spread principles, as something that fits Watson's skill set in a way that allows him to be reactionary, to see the field develop, and to make plays in rhythm. And look, I need to be honest with you right now. I hear that, and the football nerd in me understands exactly what they are talking about. Deshaun Watson in Houston, when he was a 3-time Pro Bowler under Bill O'Brien, was operating in a quick decision, spread-based passing game. He thrived when the ball came out fast, when the reads were simplified by route combinations and pre-snap motion, and when he was not asked to hold the ball for extended windows waiting for plays to develop downfield. Kevin Stefanski's system in Cleveland was never that. And so the case being made, internally within the Browns building according to these reports, is that for the first time in 4 years, the offensive system in Cleveland might actually match what Deshaun Watson does best. Is that enough to make him a starting NFL quarterback again? Dre's opinion? No, absolutely not. A good system does not fix 2 torn Achilles tendons, does not erase 19 games in 4 years, and does not undo the fact that this man was statistically one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the entire NFL when he was actually healthy enough to play. But the people inside that building appear to believe otherwise, and that belief is what is driving this whole situation. Because here is where it stopped being speculation and became documented reality. According to longtime Cleveland Browns insider Mary Kay Cabot of Cleveland.com, Deshaun Watson emerged from the team's first voluntary minicamp in late April with a genuine lead in the quarterback competition. Watson reportedly received the lion's share of first-team repetitions during team drills. Shedeur Sanders did get some first-team reps. The Browns are not completely shutting the door on him, but by all accounts, Watson's share of those reps dwarfed what Shedeur was getting. And Dillon Gabriel, the third-round pick from last year who also started 6 games as a rookie, received 0 first-team reps. 0. So the hierarchy as it stands, after 3 days of voluntary minicamp in April 2026, is Watson, then Sanders, then Gabriel on the outside looking in. And to make matters even more uncomfortable for Shedeur fans, FanDuel Sportsbook posted early odds on who starts Week 1 for Cleveland, and Watson came out as the favorite at -174. Shedeur was the underdog at +136. Dillon Gabriel was a distant long shot. The market, the insiders, and the coaching staff's early rep distribution are all pointing in the same direction. Now here is where I need to pump the brakes and give you Dre's real perspective, because I am not here to just read you box scores and call it content. What is the actual point of starting Deshaun Watson in 2026? I genuinely want someone to explain that to me. This is a man under contract for the final year of a 5-year, $230 million fully guaranteed deal. The Browns are on the hook for a $45 million cap hit this season, whether Watson throws a single pass or sits on the bench in a custom-tailored suit eating sunflower seeds. That money is gone. It left the building. And before anyone brings up the salvage the trade argument that Jeremy Fowler raised on SportsCenter, the idea that getting Watson to 70 or 80% of his Houston form could make the trade somehow less catastrophic, I want to be direct about something. The Browns sent 3 first-round picks and 3 mid-round picks to Houston for this man. They handed him the largest fully guaranteed contract in NFL history at the time. He has started 19 games across 4 years. The math on salvaging that deal does not exist. You cannot math your way into making that trade look okay. What you can do is start your 22-year-old rookie quarterback, give him a real offensive infrastructure for the first time in his career, and at minimum figure out whether or not you have a franchise quarterback going forward. That is the logical play. But logic has never been the Cleveland Browns' strongest suit, and here we are. Now let's talk about the media circus, because you cannot tell this story without getting into the war between Jarvis Landry and the Cleveland press corps, and specifically the ongoing back and forth between Landry and ESPN Cleveland's Tony Grossi, which has become its own subplot inside the larger quarterback drama. For those who have not been following, Jarvis Landry, the former Cleveland Browns wide receiver and current co-host of the podcast 4 Down and South, has been one of the loudest external voices on this entire situation. Landry went public with criticism of how the Cleveland media covered Kevin Stefanski's tenure, calling out what he described as a media culture built around turmoil and clickbait. He accused certain reporters of spreading misinformation about who was calling plays during some of Stefanski's more disastrous seasons. He said some Cleveland media members were here for the chaos rather than for the football. And when the Browns had their voluntary minicamp, Landry had comments specifically aimed at the quarterbacks and their relationship with noise, implying that Shedeur Sanders in particular needed to develop the ability to tune out the narrative and focus on competition. Tony Grossi, who has been covering the Cleveland Browns for decades and whose credibility in that market is significant, pushed back hard. And not just on the Shedeur comments. Grossi went straight for Landry's past, calling him out publicly on air and demanding that Landry explain what actually happened with the Baker Mayfield situation years ago, when Odell Beckham's camp began leaking stories against Mayfield and the locker room fractured. Grossi's position, essentially, was that he did not want to hear Landry's media criticism until Landry addressed why he did not publicly back his own quarterback when the narrative turned against Baker Mayfield. That is an old grievance, but Grossi is clearly not done with it. And the whole exchange reveals something important about the environment surrounding this Browns team and this quarterback competition. Everyone has a side, everyone has a history, and nobody in Cleveland is approaching this situation with clean hands. But here's what Jarvis Landry said that actually made a lot of sense, and I want to give him his credit, because I am not here to just pick sides. Landry went on his podcast and praised the Browns' offseason work loudly. He talked about the offensive line rebuild. Cleveland signed Zion Johnson from the Chargers, brought in Elgton Jenkins from Green Bay, drafted Utah tackle Spencer Fano with the 6th overall pick, and added 2 wide receivers in Texas A&M's KC Concepcion in round 1, and Washington's Denzel Boston in round 2. Landry's point was that for the first time in years, the Browns have built the infrastructure around their quarterbacks to actually succeed. And then he dropped the hammer on both Watson and Sanders by essentially saying, there are no more excuses, the line is built, the weapons are there. Monken is a legitimate play caller. Whoever wins this job has every tool in the shed available to them, and the one who cannot make it work with this roster has nobody to blame but themselves. That is a real point, and it raises the stakes of this competition enormously, because if Watson goes out there this season, takes first-team reps through OTAs and training camp, wins the starting job, and then gets hurt again or struggles again, the Browns have officially wasted the window on a rebuilt offensive line, 2 first-round caliber wide receivers, and a head coach who just came from running one of the most efficient offenses in recent memory. That is a catastrophic outcome. Conversely, if Watson wins the job and actually produces, if Monken's system unlocks something in him, if his body holds, if he can operate at even 70 or 80% of his Houston form, then Cleveland has a real football team. Their defense ranked 6th in the league last season. An average to above-average quarterback running the right system could legitimately put this team in playoff contention. The ceiling exists. The problem is the floor with Deshaun Watson is basement level, and no one in Cleveland seems capable of admitting that openly. Todd Monken himself has been careful with his words, which is what you would expect from a first-year head coach who does not want to create locker room friction before OTAs even begin. After the voluntary minicamp, he said Watson's ball was coming out great, that he moved around well, and that he could not get inside Watson's body to know how it actually felt. Monken also said publicly that he wants to enter training camp in late July with a clear quarterback pecking order, but that he would not rush the decision. That is a coach managing expectations and managing egos simultaneously. He knows he has a ticking clock on Watson physically. He knows he has a young quarterback in Shedeur Sanders who needs development reps to grow. And he knows that the entire football world is watching this competition with a level of scrutiny that most quarterback battles simply do not attract. Now let me give you the counter-argument, because Dre Reports is not a propaganda machine, and I believe in giving you both sides even when I think one side is clearly right. There are legitimate reasons, football reasons, to consider giving Watson the first shot. Number 1. Experience in the system. Watson has run spread-based air raid concepts before. Shedeur Sanders, for all his talent, is entering just his 2nd NFL season and is still learning the speed of the professional game. Putting an experienced veteran in a new offense that fits his background is not an insane football decision. Number 2. The cap reality. The Browns are paying Watson $45 million this year regardless. If he is physically capable of competing, there is a basic asset management argument for putting him on the field rather than paying him to hold a clipboard. Number 3. Monken's credibility. The man came from the best offense in the league. If he looks at Watson through those 3 days of minicamp and says, "I can work with this," you have to at least give the coach the benefit of the doubt that he is seeing something real. And number 4, this is the one the Fox Sports analysts made. And honestly, it is the most compelling argument for Sanders regardless. The Browns have been drafting first-round quarterbacks since forever, and none of them have worked out. Baker Mayfield, Brandon Weeden, Johnny Manziel, Brady Quinn, Tim Couch. That is a Hall of Shame first-round quarterback graveyard that is uniquely Cleveland. Sanders was not even a first-round pick. He fell to them at pick 144. And in his rookie season, with a broken roster, no offensive line, and Kevin Stefanski calling plays in a system that was never designed for him, he still went 3-4 as a starter. That is a foundation. That is something to build on. Starting Watson over him is not just a gamble on Watson recovering. It is actively sacrificing the development window of a young quarterback who has already shown he can compete in this league. My take has not changed. This is Shedeur Sanders' job. It should be Shedeur Sanders' job. Whatever is happening at minicamp, whatever Watson's relationship with Monken looks like, whatever the odds boards say, the long-term play here is crystal clear. You are not going anywhere meaningful with a 30-year-old quarterback on the final year of his contract who has played 19 games in 4 years. You have a young, talented, resilient quarterback sitting right there who just needs the system and the support to show you what he can do. Giving Watson first-team reps in voluntary minicamp is one thing. Making him the Week 1 starter is an entirely different and potentially franchise-altering mistake. OTAs start this week. Training camp opens in late July. The real competition is just beginning, and Dre Reports will be here for every single development. And look, before I close this out, I want to address one more thing that the source transcript touched on, because it is genuinely funny and kind of illuminating about how chaotic this situation already is. Tony Grossi and his co-host were on air discussing this competition, and they brought up the fact that last year, Joe Flacco did not take a single first-team rep on the first day of training camp. Not one. And they admitted, the people who cover this team every single day admitted, that there was no rhyme or reason to how last year's quarterback situation was handled. Flacco ended up starting, Pickett got traded, Nobody got the reps they needed. The whole thing was a management disaster. And now, heading into year one of the Todd Monken era, we already have a situation where a retired Achilles quarterback who hasn't played in 19 months is leading the depth chart. The beat reporters are openly saying they are not surprised Watson is the betting favorite. The odds boards have him ahead. And Shedeur Sanders, the man who should be the unambiguous future of this franchise, is being treated like he needs to prove himself all over again. Cleveland, man, Cleveland. But here is what I know for certain. By the time OTAs close out this week and the mandatory minicamp in June wraps up, there will be more clarity. Monken has already said he wants to enter training camp with a pecking order established. The reps will tell the story. And if Watson takes every first-team snap between now and July and Shedeur is standing on the sideline in a headset learning terminology, that should alarm every single person in that fan base who cares about the future of this franchise. The talent is not in question with Sanders. The grit is not in question. What is in question is whether the Cleveland Browns organization has the courage to commit to a direction, stop hedging with legacy contracts, and actually build something sustainable. $45 million of sunk cost should not be the reason you start the wrong quarterback. But in Cleveland, it just might be. If you made it this far, you already know what time it is. Smash that like button right now. If this story got your blood boiling even a little bit, that like button deserves a beating. Drop a comment below and tell me, is this Deshaun Watson's job to lose, or does Shedeur Sanders have to rip it away from him by force? I want to hear every single take. Subscribe to Dre Reports if you are not already part of the family, because we are in the thick of Browns quarterback drama season, and I am not slowing down for anything. Hit that bell notification so you do not miss a single drop. Share this video with every Browns fan you know, every Shedeur believer, and every Watson apologist. Let them all watch and tell me I am wrong. I'm Dre Fiver. No filter, no agenda, just the story. And this story is far from over.